With all the hate going around towards Tears of the Kingdom, it's hard to say that you love the game out of fear of judgment and backlash. And as someone who actually really loves the game, even if I'm confused as to whether I prefer it over Breath of the Wild, as I mentioned in my video on the game, I know that there are so many others out there who agree with me. So, with many people struggling to express their love and appreciation for TotK, I decided that I'd make this video to list a bunch of pros with none of the cons to give the average Tears of the Kingdom enjoyer something so they can see a bit of light in the darkness. And maybe I'll even convince a TotK hater that there's more to love than they previously thought. So after my video where I talked about how great Breath of the Wild was, I replayed Tears of the Kingdom a bit, and one thing stood out to me the most on the replay, which was its story. Now, I do personally love Breath of the Wild as it's set in a post-apocalyptic world with no memories, but something pointed out to me recently that kinda made me feel less affection towards the narrative. After completing the Great Plateau, King Rome just tells you everything that happened to Hyrule, and after I came to this realization, I honestly bumped it down a few points. Don't get me wrong, still a fantastic game, but that accompanied by the fact that I replayed Tears kinda pushed it above Breath of the Wild again. And there is a total of one reason. Mystery. Yes, despite the fact that you literally have amnesia in Breath of the Wild, everything is spilled out to you almost immediately. But in Tears of the Kingdom, it's a mystery from start to about midway. From the very beginning, before Ganondorf reanimates, Link and Zelda are exploring mysterious Zonai ruins deep beneath Hyrule Castle. And this whole scene instills that sense of intrigue and curiosity. You want to know just as much as Zelda, even if you're not quite as excited as she is.
Link! This is a huge discovery!
Either way, the game wants you to want to know more, and I think it does this almost flawlessly. Even after this scene, when you're on the Great Sky Island, you try to figure out what has happened to Zelda, and who the Zonai were. How did they launch the islands into the sky? Where did they go? They never fully answer this, but the game can give clues to these answers. Eiji Aonuma stated that he doesn't want things flat out explained to the players, but instead he wants us to observe things within the game and create our own theories on everything, to give that similar feeling of an archaeologist uncovering the secrets of a lost civilization. And personally, I think this is a great idea. This has sparked the debate that they just don't care about the timeline anymore, but I don't think they've fully given up. If they did, then how come we can see the hidden clues for how it may be connected to the timeline right in front of us? Once again, this video is far from being a deep dive, but the evidence for the connection to the timeline do exist. There could be many different interpretations of the connection, ranging from Zelda being sent back to before Skyward Sword, to it being set in a timeline separate from the other games, to her being sent to a time after the other games in one of the timeline variants, but long before the story of Breath of the Wild. I came up with this one myself, and I personally think it's my favorite of the theories, because it makes the most sense in my mind. But obviously, we probably will never know which theory is correct. So as I was saying, the game is great at giving that sense of mystery, and I love it. The more you play through the game, the more you uncover from either doing the main story or finding the geoglyph dragon tears. In my Breath of the Wild video, I said that the way it was told to the player wasn't the best and ruined the mystery for a lot of people. And I still stand by that. However, this is a pro TotK video, so I'll skip that part and move into how great the story behind the problem is. I mean, come on, it is amazing. Not quite as special as Wilds, but on the same level and potentially even better because of the mystery factor. Actually, yeah, because of that I'd say it is better. I still love Breath of the Wild story and how it's told, just not the fact that the whole backstory was told at the beginning. At least with Tears, you will need to slowly progress to uncover the story. I still personally prefer the Sheikah story with the Divine Beasts and Guardians over the Zonais personally, but it's still very strong. I just kinda wish we could have seen more of them, but oh well. So that's my thoughts on the story, and why it's actually brilliant despite its poor storytelling, which I can now see is also a problem with Breath of the Wild as well. And while I have that game brought up now, let's quickly discuss the music between the games. I forgot to mention it in my Breath of the Wild video, but the music in that game is just so perfect. I think everyone can recognize the main theme, although there has always been one complaint among fans about the lack of epic adventure music while exploring the overworld. And I get that. Nothing beats galloping around on your trusty steed while epic orchestral music blasts in the background. But the game's soundtrack was going for a bit more of a melancholic and serene vibe. Same with Tears of the Kingdom, and the developers executed it perfectly. And while each game's soundtrack is extremely similar, I think TotK takes the cake because there's a lot more memorable themes, at least for me. I still have Colgera's theme stuck in my head to this day. So while each game's soundtrack is practically the same, I prefer Tears of the Kingdoms because of its more memorable and significantly bigger soundtrack. It's got pretty much all of the songs from its predecessor, and then there's the ones from all the new areas and bosses. It also incorporates quite a lot of Japanese instruments, which I think fits perfectly with the game. The added music for areas such as the Depths and the Sky Islands are just wonderful. The Sky has that serene music I said earlier, and is the perfect place to just unwind and relax, with its music and stunningly gorgeous yellow aesthetic going on with the grass and leaves. Just wish there was more of them. It's what I like to listen to while I work. And the Depths is the exact opposite. The whole Depths is all dark and unknown, and the music reflects that. It instills dread into you as you wander around aimlessly just searching for the nearest light route. It was one of my highlights of the game on a first playthrough, getting lost and trying not to stumble upon a giant monster that would destroy me in one fell swoop. It's definitely the most challenging area in the game when you first discover it. These two areas I feel were well implemented into the game, and had a lot of fun exploring them. Some of my fondest memories were spent adventuring into the unknown both above and down below. Also, very quickly, I want to mention the abilities. I said in my Breath of the Wild video that the Sheikah runes are far more fun to mess around with, which is true, but I also said that the Zonai abilities were far more practical. Using Ascend to easily escape a cave, using Recall to get higher places and bring objects back to your location, Fuse to create some insanely cool and strong weapons from resources, and of course Ultra Hand to grab almost anything and create some bizarre contraptions to attack your foes or just to traverse the land, sky, and depths. They are just so much better, even if the physics used for the runes are more quirky and satisfying. Just wanted to clear that up. Alright, I think it's time to finally move on to the story properly, starting with the main characters. Link is, well, Link, doesn't speak much, but that's to be expected. Zelda is as energetic and excited about ancient history as ever, and grows so well in this game. It's a shame that we barely see her grow alongside Link, but I'll get back to that just now. Ganondorf is as intimidating as ever, probably more than ever. I personally think this is my favorite design of his. He looks more like a Gerudo than ever before. And can we talk about that Demon King form? Holy moly, that demise callback was incredible. Tears of the Kingdom and Skyward Sword shared a lot of similarities in the first place, but this took it to a whole new level. And need I say anything about the health bar? Again, I'll get back to it later in this video. And Rauru, man, Rauru. This man, or goat, is a way better father figure than Zelda's actual dad. Don't ask me how the hell he is her ancestor, but I can kind of see it in a way. And his character is great, as a calm and collected guy, but is able to unleash his anger and power when necessary.
Thousands of years will pass on the blink of an eye. You only delay the inevitable.
You're wrong. Years from now, someone will appear with the sword that seals the darkness. A swordsman with the power to defeat you, Link. Remember this name.
Link. Interesting. I look forward to meeting you.
I should also mention now that he holds a secret stone, which enhances one's secret ability, and which is why I'm assuming it's called that. But I mention this now because I'll be talking a bit more about it just now. But this stone grants Rauru light power, plus I'm pretty sure he holds the Triforce in his time, which would explain why Zelda had it later on. And then there's Rauru's wife, Sonia, who is even better when it comes to being a parental figure to Zelda. Zelda lost her mother at a young age, so it's rather bittersweet to see her interact with Sonia like she would her mother if she had survived. She also has time powers and teaches Zelda how to use it during her time stuck there. It's just a shame she had to die. I mean, everyone in the past did, because they're in the ancient past, but it was still a tragic scene. Only to be ruined by this, but I'll let it slide because of how hilarious it is. And then there are a bunch of other great characters, who I won't talk too much about, but the important ones I will briefly discuss. Minoru is Rauru's older sister and the Sage of Spirit, which means she can separate her soul from her body. She's great, and I personally find it funny that she's inside a construct she built, which she can ride as a mech suit, which isn't that strong but quite a good time. Tulin is amazing, not too much because of his character, but because of what he can do. He can fire arrows at enemies, which can be extremely powerful and stuns enemies if it's a headshot. Plus, he's really good for traversing the sky as he is the Sage of Wind, so he can blow a gust of wind in the direction you're facing while paragliding, which will push you forward. I've said it before, but he is much better than Rivali because you can replace Rivali with a rocket shield, and you have to wait so long after using his ability. And Yunobo is decent, but far from being as useful. He's the Sage of Fire, and you can use him to roll into enemies with a trail of fire, can even break ore deposits for you without needing to break a weapon. So yeah, handy, but only in specific situations. The main problem I have is how big he is, so he either takes a while to spawn in while in a small area, or just gets in the way. At least he can do a decent bit of damage while fighting. And Sidon being Sidon is at first really good, but I just wish the water shield he surrounds you with didn't have to count as both an attack and a protective barrier. I think if it was just a shield, it would have been 1,000 times better. Still really good though, but once again he's too big and takes up space. And Riju is easily my least favorite of the sages. She's still good, but only during the Gerudo Regional Phenomena quest, since she's the only way you can damage the Gibdo Queen and means you don't have to waste elemental resources on Gibdo. So there's that at least. One problem I have with sages that would have pretty much made all of them amazing is having each assigned to a specific button. However, we can only dream. And while the sages aren't as good as the champions from Breath of the Wild, they still have their uses even if only in specific situations. Tulin is amazing though, easily the best of all the sages and maybe even the champions in my opinion. However, we do actually have one more sage to discuss. Zelda, once she masters her time manipulation powers, becomes the Sage of Time. And this is the part of the game that truly made her my favorite version of the character. After Rauru seals away Ganondorf, she receives the decayed Master Sword from Link, which we see at the beginning after beating the Great Sky Island. She plans to get it back to Link somehow, and restore it in the process, so her and Minoru devise a plan that would almost certainly lose Zelda forever. Draconification. If one swallows their secret stone, they would transform into a dragon. Not only does this probably mean the dragons Naedra, Farosh, and Dinral are Zona who swallowed their stones, but it also means that Zelda could restore the Master Sword in her sacred dragon light. With no other choice, she commits to this act after putting Minoru's spirit inside the Purapad to be given to Link on the Great Sky Island in the far future. And with that, the most heartbreaking scene of the game commences.
You must. Protect them all!
Wow. Just wow. I've never cared for a Zelda this much in my entire life. She literally sacrifices her life just to stop Ganondorf however many years in the future. And how am I supposed to hate this game? Not only does this mean that the light dragon we've seen flying around the skies high above the ground was Zelda the whole time, but she has been there since before even the Sheikah did their thing. She has been there with the Master Sword all this time, and she doesn't even remember who she was. I honestly got quite emotional while watching this play out for the first time. I don't think any other Zelda game has made me feel this way, and there have been many close contenders. And now that I say this, Tulin isn't my favorite of the sages, it is quite obviously Zelda. And this is exactly why that is. I just wish she could have been a companion for Link as a sage as well. And back on the topic of sages, what is one thing they have? Dungeons. And how are the dungeons in this game? Well, a lot better than Divine Beasts, I'll tell you that. Each one is different from the other, and allows a lot more player freedom. You can't climb up walls on Divine Beasts, which restricted what you could do a lot, but in Tears of the Kingdom, everything in the dungeons can be cleared using pretty much any method. You can even use your own Zonai devices in here, which gives everything the opportunity to be completely bypassed. Personally, when I played the game for the first time, I didn't use my own things. I used what was given to me. But even then, I was able to create my unintended ways of solving puzzles. That's what's so great about this game, the player freedom. I'm making a proper video on the topic, but I'll just say that this is what Zelda was originally all about. And I think it's incredible here. It was also in Breath of the Wild, but not quite on the same level. And this is helped by the fact that you can literally create almost any machine you want with the Zonai devices. The amount of crazy contraptions created by fans to this day is outstanding. Back to dungeons. While following a similar gameplay to the Divine Beasts, they can be viewed as just much better versions of them, which is completely valid. Another reason for this is because of the dungeon bosses, which also differentiate themselves from the Blights in Breath of the Wild for being unique to their respective dungeons. Colgera is a giant ice worm that creates blizzards and is a nice callback to Molgera in Wind Waker. Plus, it's got the greatest fight music in the game. Marbled Goma is also a neat reference to Goma from Ocarina of Time, but is a lot more menacing, and it has a much cooler design. It also uses the terrain of the battlefield effectively, that also calls back to Goma at the same time. Muktarok was disappointing to a lot, but hilariously amazing to me. The fact that there's so much build up for what is expected to be a decently big boss like all the others, only to be revealed that it's just a humanoid Octorok that produces a sludge that is only just bigger than Link is just awesome. It messes with your expectations, and didn't, at least for me, disappoint me with deception. And its battle music reflects the goofiness of it all. And last but not least, Queen Gibdo. As I said before, it can only be attacked by Riju's lightning, and is therefore very difficult. It was the only boss I died to, and that was because I made the silly mistake of going straight to do the Gerudo quest immediately after the Rito one, which had me wondering where the difficulty spike came from, because the game is partially intended to go from Rito to Goron to Zora and then to Gerudo. So that was a terrifying experience for me. What of all the Gibdo that I didn't know how to deal with because of my lack of resources. And while I'm still on the topic of bosses, let's go back a bit to Ganondorf. After wave fight of hordes of monsters, you finally get to face him in a one-on-one sword duel. And I think that this is the best Ganondorf fight ever. His first phase is nothing, but once he uses his secret stone, he turns into the Demon King, and we get to witness the thing that made so many streamers sweat in their boots.
Enjoy these final moments. I will be taking far more than you're on this time.
He is also accompanied by phantom versions of himself, but thankfully the sages arrive in time to take them on for you. But once you remove the additional hunk of health, he absorbs his phantoms and neutralizes the sages, leading to just you and him. And this fight goes a little something like this. So yeah, he can dodge you and enter bullet time now, and this is partially why I love this fight so much. It was such a shock to players that it caught them off guard and often would leave to them messing up their second perfect dodge. That, plus the attacks that completely delete your hearts, means that if you don't know what you're doing, you may fail if you don't have enough strong weapons and enough hearts. And then once you deal with this phase, he uses one last ditch effort to destroy you once and for all. So he takes his secret stone out of his forehead, raises it to his mouth, and swallows it. And as you would expect, he transforms into the Demon Dragon. Easily the biggest of all the dragons, and this leads to what I consider my favorite ending sequence in any Zelda game. As Link plummets to the ground, he is rescued by Zelda, still in her dragon form, and it is at this point, if you do not have the Master Sword acquired from her already, you will be granted it by her. However, if you did not get it before the fight, you'll be treated to something truly spectacular. So she flies extremely high, right? Well, once you find all the memories, she will fly lower, making getting to her a lot easier. And once you do, you will notice the sword stuck in her forehead, with a blue and yellow light emanating from it. If you take it, Zelda will start flailing about frantically trying to get you off, and if you have enough stamina, you will eventually calm her down, and you are granted the Master Sword. You then hear Zelda's distant voice, and you land back on the Great Sky Island where you left the Master Sword in the beginning. I think it's safe to say, once again, that this is my favorite Master Sword pull in history. I mean, you're literally pulling a sword out of a dragon's head. Why wouldn't it be cool? Anyways, back to the final fight. Link and Zelda fight alongside each other to take down the demon dragon. And after an amazing soundtrack and breathtaking visuals, Link plunges the Master Sword into the giant secret stone on the dragon's forehead, which is a neat contrast to pulling it out of Zelda's head, and it is destroyed in a giant blast of light. And you've done it. You've destroyed Ganondorf. But the story isn't over just yet. Link is transported to a weird dreamlike area with Zelda, and Rauru and Sonia appear beside him and channel their power through him to, what I'm assuming, reverse the draconification. And there she is, Princess Zelda. After thousands and thousands of years, she is finally back. And as everything fades away, Rauru and Sonia vanish, and Link reawakens hundreds of feet in the air, and is Zelda falling below him. And just like that, you've beaten the game. All I can really say right now is that everything that I've said here, plus more, are exactly the reasons why I love this game. And I hope I've changed the minds of a few others. Yes, I know this video came extremely soon after I just claimed Breath of the Wild was better, but opinions can change, and I think this is proof of that. This game wasn't really meant to be a sequel where the characters are set into a different part of the world to stop evil there or anything like that. It's the type of sequel that shows how each character, main or not, has grown over the past 6 years. How the kingdom of Hyrule has changed and become something that's finally flourishing after all the destruction and chaos that had plagued it. We see families grow, characters evolve, and relationships form. The people of Hyrule are rebuilding their kingdom, and this game is the type of sequel to show this to us. Thank you, and I hope to see you next time.
Hi, post-recording me back again. First of all, I forgot to mention, please subscribe. And also, I realized something while I was recording this video. Breath of the Wild's menu, like the loading screen and the inventory is all like horizontal. It's all landscape, you know. But in like Tears of the Kingdom, all of the menus, the loading screen and the inventory is horizontal. It's going up. It's like, because like, you know, the game is going up to the sky. You use ascend, you're going up. I don't know if that was any detail. I don't know if anyone has noticed that.